What's up, everybody? Ron Harris here. Recently, I did a video called Forgotten Mass Monsters of Bodybuilding and realized there's a few more guys I didn't cover. So here we go with part two. First up on the list is a gentleman that a lot of people pointed out. Why wasn't he on here? Art Atwood, the late Art Atwood. So here's Art Atwood. He was originally from Wisconsin, 5'11", competed around 275, went up to about 330 in the off season. Unfortunately, he passed away at only 37 years old. But he had a really good run. 2001, he was in one of the greatest NPC nationals ever. He won the super heavyweight class, got his pro card there. Heavyweight winner at that show was Branch Warren. Light heavyweight and overall champion was Branch's good friend and training partner, Johnny O. Jackson. And the lightweight winner was my good friend, Jose Raymond. Great show. 2002, the following year, Art would make his pro debut at the Toronto Pro, took first place in a lineup of 26 men, beat competitors like Marcus Rule, Gustavo Badell, and Darren Charles. It's very good. That year, he went on to his first Mr. Olympia, took 12th place. That would be his only pro win, Toronto. 2003, he came back to Mr. Olympia, was 13th place. Did a couple more shows, but he retired after the 2006 season. And he's a guy, I don't know if he ever really fulfilled his full potential. I think he was pretty darn good. Waist was a little bit wide. Midsection was a little large, and his arms could have been bigger for those legs, but he would have had time to work on that. So this is a guy I know a lot of you aren't familiar with. If you're newer to the sport, if you're a younger fan, you may not realize Art Atwood, just how good he was. And yes, he left us much too young, 37 years old, had a heart attack while walking across a courtyard, fell into a pool. I believe it was a heart attack that took his life, not drowning, but still awful way to go. And sorry to see him leave us so young. Let's move on to another young man, a guy who left us much too soon. He was only 26 years old. Talking about Dallas McCarver. Let's take a look at Dallas at one of his best showings, the 2017 Arnold Classic, where he took runner-up position to the late Cedric McMillan. So here he is. Dallas had turned pro at just 21 years old. A few years before this at the 2012 North American Championships, winning super heavyweight and overall titles. They called him Big Country. He was 6'1", turned pro about 255. Here he was probably about 270. And I don't think we ever saw anything near his full potential. He waited a couple of years. He did not make his pro debut for 3 years almost. 2015, he resurfaced, made his pro debut at the Cal Pro, and he won that. He would do 13th place at the Olympia that year. 2016, he comes back, pops up one more time to win the Chicago Pro. 2017 would be his final pro season, unfortunately. Took second place at what we're looking at here to Cedric McMillan. Went to the Arnold Classic Australia and had to withdraw. He collapsed on stage. I remember Sean Ray was very vocal about that as well. Other people that they saw that as a bad warning sign that he collapsed on stage. And sure enough, a few months later, he was gone. But he did go on right after that show. He rallied, came back for the New Zealand Pro 2017, where he took second place behind Brandon Curry. Brandon had just finished 6-month stint, his first one at Oxygen Gym in Kuwait, and was about 25 pounds of muscle heavier. So Brandon was a force to be reckoned with. A couple years later, Brandon would become Mr. Olympia. But Dallas, we never saw Dallas's full potential. I want to show you another thing. He was renowned for being super strong. Let's take a look at him deadlifting here. This was some off-season, but it said 800-pound deadlift, but correct me if I'm wrong. These are 100-pound plates. So if you have 800 pounds in plates and a 45-pound bar, that's an 845-pound deadlift. So even more than what Ronnie Coleman did in that video, the unbelievable. Very strong. That was off-season. This was pre-contest. There's Matt Jansen, his coach, spotting him. He had done three sets before this with 405 in this workout video. And at this point, he must have felt it was too heavy to go safely on. He takes a plate off and just bangs out reps with 315. But yeah, he had done, I believe it was 3 work sets already with 405. I'm talking about like 10, 12 reps. Look at the density and the thickness he had. And, we never got to see, I don't think he needed to be much bigger, but he would have gotten bigger, and he definitely would have gotten more muscle maturity and detail over the years. But we never got to see that, unfortunately. Gone much too soon. 26 is so young. So young. Rest in peace, Dallas McCarver. Next guy on the list, also no longer with us. Gustavo Badell, the freaking Rican, who was originally from Venezuela, left us last July at only 50 years old. He was about 5'7" to 5'8". Let's take a look at him from Arnold Classic 2005. Yeah, he was about 5'8". I'd give him 5'8". 250 pounds on stage. So thick and dense. I had seen him as a junior at the Caribbean and Central American Championships back around, I think it was 1998, representing Venezuela at the time. Nowhere near this size. He was probably 40, 50 pounds lighter, smaller back then. But he improved quite a bit over the years. He had a very slow start to his pro career. 2000 and 2001, 2002, did not do very well. Was basically like a last call out kind of guy. He did make it to the Olympia in 2002 and got 24th out of 25 guys. I'm trying to think, how did he get to the Olympia that year? He must have won something. 2004, he had taken third at the Ironman Pro. This is when he started doing much, much better. That year, he would take third at the Olympia behind Ronnie and Jay. That was one of those years. He took third at the Olympia the next year as well. 2004, 2005, yeah. So 2 years in a row, this guy was a top Olympian. 2006 would be his final pro win. I'm sorry, that's not right. He won the San Francisco Pro in 2006. He would win one more pro show. 2009 Atlantic City Pro. Here he is doing some heavy cheek curls with 185 on one of those Road to the Olympia videos. Yeah, his Olympia placing started to drop after 2005. In 2006, he got 6th place. 2007, he was 8th. 2008, down in 10th. That was it. I'm sorry, no, he had one more Mr. Olympia. 2009, he was down in 13th. So for a guy that had been third 3 years in a row to drop down that low, the writing was on the wall. He did have that final pro win in 2009 at the Atlantic City Pro. Retired after 2012. One thing I want to show you, though. For 2 years in a row at the Olympia, 2004 and 2005, they had something called the Challenge Round, which was not part of the actual competition. It was really for the fans and had a different judging, separate judging panel and everything. So the top 6 guys had the chance to challenge each other, call out any one of their fellow competitors in the pose of their choice. It would be one of their best poses. And if they won that pose against the other person, they got points. And here we saw it was down to Jay Cutler won it the first year, 2004. Here we saw Gustavo and Ronnie. They were tied at 12 points each going into this. So this was basically a pose down to determine the overall champ or the winner of the challenge round. And we see Gustavo was deemed the winner. He beat Ronnie, who was, let's see, at 2005, he was already a 6-time Olympia? 7-time Olympia? Anyway, he was considered unbeatable and untouchable. There's Triple H, the wrestling superstar, the legendary Triple H, Paul Levesque, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, raising his hand in victory. Congrats and rest in peace, Gustavo. Gustavo left us too young, 50 years old. That's young, I'm sorry. Next up is a guy that never turned pro. However, if you want to talk about Mass Monster, you got to give this guy his props. So his record, let's see, he did the Nationals many times. He did the NPC Nationals in 96, took 4th. 97, he was 5th, and that was before there was a super class. So that was just everyone under 225 was a heavyweight. 1998, they started the super heavyweight class. He took 8th. 2000, again, he was 8th. 2002, he was second to Tony Freeman, which these days, second to nationals, that's a pro card. Back then, you had to win your class. Second place, you just had to come back next year and try again. 2003, he was sixth place. Did the USA many times. 1995, he was seventh. 96, he was seventh. 97, he was sixth. 99, he was ninth. 2000, he was fourth. 2001, seventh. 2002, third. 2003, second, which again, today, second at the USA even gets you a pro card. Today, it does not. I'm sorry, so back then it did not. You had to win. In fact, in the 90s, when I used to go to the USA every year, only the overall champion got a pro card. Other class winners went home with nothing. Nice trophy, and some accolades, but they didn't get a pro card. Dave's last show would be the 2004 NPC USA, where he got sixth place. Dave is one of there's 6 people in this video, and he's one of 2 that are alive. And he's had heart surgery, but the reason he's still alive is because he dropped all that muscle and all that body weight. I believe if he had stayed this as big as he was back then, past his prime, past his competitive years, I don't think he'd be with us anymore. There's no reason for anyone to stay huge, 300 pounds plus in the off season, 270 lean. There's no reason to do that once you're no longer competing. Next guy I want to show you, he's in the thumbnail. I really feel like, no, we're going to go to Gunter first. I'm sorry. Let's go to Gunter Schlierkamp from Germany. Gunter was pretty darn good. Here he is, the 2002 Mr. Olympia. So Gunter from Germany, 6'1", competed around close to 300 pounds, would go to 330, a lean 330 in the offseason. Gunter turned pro at the World Amateur Championships in 1993, winning the heavyweight class. Remember, there was no super class back then. He was invited to the Mr. Olympia several times without qualifying. Joe Weider was still alive, and it was his prerogative to have one special invite a year. And he was a Weider athlete. He was on their magazine covers. He was on their supplement bottles because he was just a good-looking, marketable guy. Blonde hair, blue eyes, over 6 foot tall, and all this muscle. He looked like a muscular movie star. He actually was in some movies. Beer Fest, if you remember that one. So his first Mr. Olympia in 1994, he did not place. Again, he comes back in 98, did not place. 2000, he gets 12th. 2001, he gets 15th. 2002, what we're looking at here, this would be his breakout year. He would get 5th place here. 2003, he got 5th. 2004 at the Olympia, he got 6th. 2005 was his highest placing, 4th. 2006 would be his final Olympia, he got 10th place. Also, it's worth noting, 2002, he became the only man to beat Ronnie Coleman while Ronnie Coleman was Mr. Olympia. Let's look at some gym footage of him right now, too. Yeah, Ronnie got beat at a show called the Show of Strength in 2002 by Gunter. Controversial because, Ronnie was still Ronnie. I don't think he was looking that different at the show than he had at the Olympia. They just won a couple weeks before. But Gunter beat him there. Gunter beat him. Like I said, he was a specimen. He has downsized significantly. He's probably about 100 pounds lighter than this now. And I feel like that's why he's still alive and still with us, where a lot of the mass monsters from bygone eras, they died much too young in their 20s, 30s, 40s, early 50s. A lot of them are no longer with us. Gunter, God bless him, is still with us. Yeah. Talk about if, I don't want to go there, but in World War II, Adolf Hitler had this vision of creating a master race, an Aryan race. I don't think a more superior physical specimen, I don't think Hitler himself could have imagined. And if I'm offending anyone by just saying that, get over it. I'm not advocating the Aryan race or Nazism or anything like that. Just making a point. So that was Gunter, guys. Gunter was pretty darn great for his time, and thankfully still with us. Last guy we're going to go to is no longer with us. We lost him in February 22, and we're talking about Tom Prince. I'm going to start off by showing you Tom when I think he was at his very best, and that's the day he turned. Actually, did he turn pro here? I don't know if he did. No, he didn't. He turned pro later. So Tom Prince here, 5'8", went about 240 here. I think he was about 260 later on as a pro. He turned pro eventually, but it took him a few tries because he was in a very competitive era. And again, second place didn't get you anything back then. You just had to come back next year. So 95, He took second to Don Long, 96 USA. Took second place to Craig Titus. Craig got the pro card. He didn't. 1996, he got second place to Jay Cutler. Jay got the pro card, and he didn't. He would do 8 pro shows between 99 and 92. 99, he took, that was his pro debut, he took 13th at United Champions. There he goes. So let's take a look at him when he was a pro and he was bigger. He was probably more like 260 here, but I don't think bigger was better. It was freakier, but the muscle, that fine detail wasn't really there anymore. You saw how, even in that footage, which wasn't spectacular resolution, you could see the crazy detail and striations and feathers and cross striations in his physique right there. So 2000, he took 11th at the Arnold. He would take 9th at the Ironman that year. 2001 would be his best showing. He took 3rd place at Night Champions behind the late Orville Burke and Dexter Jackson out of 37 men. There were 37 men in the show that year. Took 3rd place. 16th place that year, 2001 at the Olympia. 8th place at the English Grand Prix. 2002, Night of Champions, he took 7th place. 9th place at something called the Southwest Pro Cup. He would come down with, be diagnosed with kidney disease called FSGS, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, which Flex Wheeler also suffered from. In 2012, Tom had a kidney transplant. He quit bodybuilding, obviously. He was out of the sport at that point. Moved on to property management, did very well. Dropped a ton of weight. You wouldn't have even recognized him. Well over 100 pounds, I bet he dropped. The kidney transplant, unfortunately, failed 2 years later, and he had to go on dialysis 3 times a week for 4 hours at a time. And yes, he left us February 22 at only 52 years old. Didn't make anything past that. So rest in peace, Tom. But he was so impressive in his time. In particular, people still talk about his hamstrings. Some of the greatest hamstrings, if not the greatest hamstring sweep and drop we've ever seen. So I think I have to say something about the fact that 4 out of the 6 men in this particular video are no longer with us. Why? You know, they left us too young. Heart attacks, kidney failure. Being that big comes at a cost physically. It's a lot of stress on the system. Just eating that much is a stress on your metabolism, carrying that much body weight. So being a mass monster is not the healthiest way to go. I think the classic physique division, one of the reasons it was created was sort of in response to that, where we had a weight cap. These guys in classic, they couldn't get too big, even if they wanted to, or else they'd be out of the division. So it's in that way, even though PEDs are still used, don't get it twisted, it's still looked upon as a much healthier division because there was a lot of drug abuse in those days when mass was king and the mass monsters were being rewarded. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Really, well, I'll end up doing another one because there's still some guys I didn't get to. So please, guys, if you like what you're seeing, subscribe, like, share, ring that bell. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps me out as I strive to grow this channel and make better and better content. Appreciate it so much that you watched, and I will catch you guys next time.